Welcome back to Pardon the Nerds, and I am here with my co-host Jesse. Hey Jesse.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Got some Spider-Man to talk about today.
Yep, we had some we had a trailer drop this last week, and it's kind of a funny story because it leaked. So Sony kind of started they freaked out, and because of that, obviously the version that leaked was like potato cam recorded and it didn't have any finished effects. And from what I've seen, I took all that into consideration and I didn't like it. I just don't like the MCU Spider-Man. And after seeing this trailer, well, I'll tell you my thoughts about what the trailer at the end. I'm gonna share my thoughts of how it compares with the leaked trailer. Um, but yeah, Jesse, this is like the start of, you could say, the big cinematic start of the multiverse story arc.
Yeah, it was supposedly going to start in WandaVision, but we didn't really get too much multiverse stuff going on in that, even though there was lots of things thinking about maybe that, Quicksilver was from the multiverse and all that. But this is really one of our first forays into the multiverse, I guess, if you don't want to count things like What If and whatever. But this will be connecting to Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange, who is, at least by this trailer, he's prominent in this. So.
Yes, he is. And, like you said, it started with WandaVision, sort of. We assume it started with WandaVision because of Wanda herself, who is going to be a major player going down the road with the Doctor Strange sequel called Multiverse of Madness. And then we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, kind of didn't matter, but in this multiverse story arc. But then we had Loki, and finally we're getting. Am I missing something else? What If? I think What If is also going to.
What If kind of spins out of Loki with Kang no longer kind of controlling the timeline. And so now we're just seeing the multiverse break loose.
Exactly. So the next stops are Spider-Man. Weirdly enough, you'd never expect this to be the multiversal story arc, but here we are. And then the next one will be Doctor Strange, the sequel. So I think we can now move on to the trailer itself. It's a teaser, but they still show quite a lot. So
let's do it. Let's do it.
Spider-Man: No Way Home official teaser trailer.
Oh, look at this. This is a good one. Some suggest that Parker's powers include the male spider's ability to hypnotize females.
Stop, come on.
Women.
My spider lord.
So,
so we got a little bit
here, of... Yeah, we're here with our MJ and Peter Parker. MJ. Do you like that name, Jesse? MJ?
So that's what I was thinking about. So I don't... so overall, I don't mind Zendaya's character being the, love interest or whatever. But I don't like how they made her essentially Mary Jane, but not Mary Jane. Like, if they would have just not called her MJ, like if she would have just been Michelle or some other name and just been a new character, I would have been fine. I don't like how she's like the Mary Jane. And my gosh, if she is, couldn't you just give her red hair? I mean, whatever, but that's just me.
You're still kind of changing the race of the character then, or I guess the color.
Well, I mean, I'm saying I can live with it a little bit more if the hair was changed. Like, it's still not the Mary Jane from the comic books, but I would just, hair color bothers me, as you know. So,
I mean,
but anyway, like I said,
I echo your sentiment that I would have preferred if. Well, here's my thing. I would have preferred if she just didn't call herself MJ, because now we are playing pretend that she is somehow her replacement when we know she is not. So you could have called her Michelle Jones or Michelle Pennyworth or whatever. Just don't play pretend that it's some kind of Mary Jane replacement. And where I differ from you is that I do have a problem with this character on multiple reasons. Number one is because in the first movie she was kind of this weirdo, and Peter was in love with Liz Allen, who also got a race swap, another change to the character. And then in the sequel, he just forgot about Liz, and he didn't even like her in the first one. She was kind of this weirdo in the background. And then in the second one, he is mad in love with her, and I'm just so confused where this development came from. It made no sense whatsoever, and that interaction between the two kind of disappointing, because of especially how the identity, the secret identity of Peter Parker is one of the most interesting aspects of the characters, and how it affects his relationships with his love interests, his friends, his family, and basically with the two movies we had, everyone who Peter cares about knows, and there's no drama happening there.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Well, the one reveal actually that bothered me a little more was Aunt May finding out so quick.
Yeah, and it
Her
was
being like
at the
okay
end of
with
the
it,
movie.
and she's like his press agent, and it's like, you know, it's so odd because Aunt May, when she actually finds out, say in the comic books, you know, she about has a heart attack. She's very concerned. She doesn't like it. You know, a lot of the times it's, you know, she's very concerned. So I don't like how they just kind of went in and she's just cool with it all. Oh yeah, sure, go out and get in danger all the time.
Yeah,
So
and the reaction was cut short because it was like the final scene of the movie, not including the post-credit scenes, of course. And they cut it short. We didn't even see their interaction, any discussions about what the heck, how did this happen, or whatever. We just skip to the next movie where she's, she's just very cool with it. And obviously, you could say none of these characters are really like the comic book counterparts, which some MCU fans refuse to just concede on but if they read the stories, Spider-Man isn't this. I don't want to say he isn't happy-go-lucky because, I mean, I would say he isn't, but that would be going a little bit too far because that's not even the point of the character. It was always, with Peter Parker, it was always about like the drama, the consequences, and with these movies, they try to put that in there, but then they just put it there so that it exists, and then they undersell it by by jokes, by just some reveal, and it just falls flat completely.
one of the biggest problems that I have with these MCU Spider-Man movies is their characterizations of everybody is like so off from the comics. The casting have odd choices. Like the biggest one in my mind is always Flash Thompson. Like that's not Flash Thompson, and there's so many characters like that are just so off from their comic book counterparts. And that's one of the things that that get connecting this to Fantastic Four, because John Watts, who directs these movies, is directing the Fantastic Four, which is just spells trouble for whoever he's going to end up casting and how he's going to direct those characters. It's not based. We've seen what he does in Spider-Man, so I'm not really excited to see what he's going to do to those characters. But it's one of the least comic accurate characters. Groups in the whole MCU, which is saying something.
Exactly. So back to the exchange between the two, I think it's for the way it's written here, I think it's kind of cute, you could say, if I were like a teenage girl watching this. I mean, no, I think it's a nice exchange, and it's kind of funny that they're reading the newspaper and she's like, hey, you got the power to hypnotize girls, which could be very creepy if he were just a bit older. But yeah.
Include the male spider's ability to hypnotize.
This is kind of like the calm before the storm.
I think it's happening in the middle of the movie because they're already talking about how like the events that have transpired, and she's like, I don't want to go back down there. All right.
Spider-Man is in fact Peter Parker.
Listen, I did not kill Mysterio.
I did not hit her.
The drones did.
The drones that are yours.
No, they're not his. I'm confused where they got this idea that they were his. I assume it was obviously Mysterio who framed Peter for the attack. But if you watch if you watch the movie
at the end of the movie, okay. I was just saying at the end of the movie, Mysterio's like right hand guy, which is the guy that Obadiah Stane yells at. I believe is that character that was part of the Tony Stark Revenge group or whatever. He had like a bunch of files and thumb drive and different things that he got from Mysterio at the end that he sent all this information off. So that's probably where they got these documents saying that Peter's behind it all.
But that's not something you can... Well, I guess you can make it look like it was the case, but the files itself didn't suddenly contain this secret info where it's Peter all along, that Peter was responsible for the events in Europe. There's nothing supporting that, and the files are not even connected to just the idea that you can fabricate a lie. I think with Mysterio, like, you could see that there were witnesses. Peter was saving people. I mean, I'm just confused why they're framing him and no one out there is. No one's got his back. No one from S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, who was a Skrull, but he was still posing to be Nick Fury. He is nowhere to be seen here. It's almost like they just introduced it for like the Secret Wars or the Secret Empire storyline that they
Well,
want to do down the line, but that's all they did. And then they're like, oh yeah, now Nick Fury's gone and the Skrull will be gone too because now we don't need him for setup. But guys, you introduced him and now you don't want to bring him in to save Peter or Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan. Why aren't they helping? I'm pretty sure they could easily debunk all this crap that's on Peter right now.
so I'm thinking that this at particular point where he's like being falsely accused is not going to be a point of story throughout the whole movie, because I believe this is going to get cleared up, but obviously people still know his identity, so that's still more what they're focusing on, even though he may not be in trouble with the law. And this also brings in the speculation that I've heard that Daredevil could make an appearance, even though, we just know how fan theories go.
No, I think it's pretty
Peter's
certain at
innocent.
this point because
Yeah, because what they've heard about Charlie Cox's filming
yeah.
schedule, that he could be the lawyer representing him, and maybe Fury sent him or something, and that's how or Pepper or Happy, contacted him. I don't know, and they kind of got the right information to him, and that's how he's going to get off. But even if he gets off here from being charged criminally, obviously everyone still knows his identity, and life's still a mess. So even if they solve this real quick, he'll still be in trouble. Then why reason he goes to Doctor Strange?
But the thing is, you can. What I was talking about is even his identity. You can easily make it so that whoever was working for Stark, Happy, or Shield within itself. I mean, I guess Sword now. They could easily say that this is a lie. They could, manipulate something in the background. They got Skrulls on their side. Come on, you can easily make it so that you generate this story where you say
They could have Quentin
this
Beck
is-
come back to life, in quotes, as a scroll.
exactly. They can frame whatever narrative they want to save this guy, but if that was the case, then that they could easily absolve any idea that Peter is Spider-Man.
We know in comics, TV shows, movies, they've always been like, oh, I almost found out their identity, and then somehow they fixed it and saved it. Like, it happens in comics all the time with characters thinking, oh, they almost found out their identity, but then something happens at the last minute, and they're like, okay, well, this explains it, because I was over here the whole time, or something. It happens all the time. So they could have probably fixed this situation without going to the drastic measures that he's going to go to.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, you're right. I mean, just a foreshadowing of what we're gonna see down in this trailer.
I did not kill Mysterio.
I did not hit her.
The
I
drones
did
that are
not.
yours.
Does any part of you feel relieved about all
Insert Bill Clinton joke.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
You feel
Now that
relieved?
everybody knows, you don't really have to hide or lie.
Okay. As you could see in the background, Flash Thompson has blonde hair now.
Oh my gosh, I never noticed that.
Really?
God.
He looks awful.
He's I still stand by he's probably the worst character, like the way that they changed
the worst
him in
transformation.
the worst transformation out of all these characters was Flash Thompson. Like, that is like the status excuse of Flash Thompson.
I think Ned Leeds is pretty up there.
They're not. God, I hope they don't make him Venom, Agent
who,
Venom.
Flash?
Phew, that would be
God.
terrible.
I mean, they turn him. He's not
That would be terrible.
really even a bully. He's just like this guy that just is. He what's
Just
it
picks
called?
on him a little
He
bit.
picks on him. He pokes the elbow and just messes with him. It's not really a bully thing. He's not embarrassing him, but I guess in the comic books, yeah, you could say he was kind of.
Well, they do become friends.
Yeah,
They do become friends
Yeah,
eventually.
and they were kind of. He was kind of a bully. They got into like a fight once or even twice over some things, and they didn't like each other. With these two, I just don't really see that. I guess now that he finds out that he's Spider-Man, who he's a fan of, somehow they're brought together, but it doesn't feel the same because the Flash Thompson in the comic books was not only looks different but and acts different. Just this, yeah, he acts differently than here.
He's different.
Yeah, and Ned Leeds, Hobgoblin. That's all I'll say. And what we're seeing with Ned Leeds is not good. Not good.
He's basically Genki for Miles' thing. That's all it is.
Yeah, we're stealing from Miles.
They've taken a lot of elements from Miles Morales to try to make it into this morphed Peter Miles thing.
Well, I was gonna say to create Miles, they took a lot from Peter, and now we are kind of full circle back, and now we're taking the knockoff of Peter. Is now we've created a knockoff of a knockoff, and now we're trying to imitate the original with a knockoff of the knockoff. You know what I mean? And we're just getting this mishmash of who knows what. But they're together, she's sticking with him through all the sadness.
Now that everybody knows, you don't really have to hide or lie to people.
For the record, I never wanted to lie to you. But how do you tell someone that you're Spider-Man? Now everybody knows. But this isn't about me. This is hurting.
It's kind of
Yeah.
they're already jumping to they're taking a lot of inspiration from the Civil War era in comics. Civil War, One More Day. Oh my gosh, this could be the actual Mephisto reveal. But One Moment in Time, which I believe that's the comic book where he goes to Doctor Strange to erase his memory, but at the last minute Mary Jane comes inside the circle and is like, no, I don't want to forget, even though they're not together or something like that. I don't remember. It was something along those lines, but she comes in and she still remembers he's Spider-Man. Basically, everyone else's mind's wiped, even all the Avengers and people that he's revealed his identity to, although he does reveal again to some of them. But so that's basically what happens in the comics. It's kind of taking hints from some of those stories.
And the worst thing is, those are not good stories. Those are the worst stories. Why would you adapt that?
Especially from Spider-Man's perspective, one of the most hated stories ever in One More Day. Not that that's necessarily what's happening here, but that's kind of in that same area of what's going on, is from that time and those comics that connect it with that. And so, yeah, it is an interesting choice.
It's not interesting. It's lousy, and John Watts and the writers who have been with him from Homecoming and Far From Home, they're complete messes for just adapting the recent stories, but the good ones, like the reveal of Peter Parker's identity to Aunt May, you botched that, and you botched the character just in general. But now you're also taking one of the worst story, if not the worst, because the character hasn't recovered since, and you're taking that and now you're making that your story, and you can already tell, and will be able to tell later down the line, that it's not going to end well for this character.
But this isn't about me. This is hurting a lot of people. I've just been thinking about how to fix all of this.
Well, to be honest, just kind of looking at the trailer as a whole, most of the stuff that interests me is the kind of villain stuff that we see towards the end, and not even really much of the actual stuff surrounding the main character of the movie and what he's going through.
I think they're just
it wasn't super intriguing.
I think they're only introducing this plot point to have a lazy excuse.
They needed a reason for the multiverse stuff to happen.
Exactly.
And as we'll get to in a minute, as we start to see Doctor Strange come in, we'll explain how this seems kind of out of character for Doctor Strange as well.
So, Peter,
Speaking of the devil,
what do I
Utums
pun
stand
unintended. Okay, it's snowing in here. Why?
I'm sure there's going to be some kind of joke when he comes in about, oh, we broke this artifact of, the freezing floors of Flortum, and some Doctor Strange weirdness, and I'm sending Wong out to get something to fix it. It'll be some kind of joke. I'm sure.
Sounds like something like it's in the ballpark of what John Watts does and these writers do with these characters all the time.
You can see it looked like Wong was to the side, like shoveling snow. If you still go back a second.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was what it was.
It makes no sense for any of them to be doing manual labor.
Yeah, he is.
That's not Wong. Let me go back.
Okay, there's
and
someone
check.
over there doing.
But they can easily.
Okay, it's not Wong.
Some skinny dude. Wong isn't skinny, but they can.
He's got hair too.
They can snap their finger and make all of this go away in a second. Why are you doing? Or they can just do fairy godmother style from Sleeping Beauty, where the magic is doing the dishes and the cleaning and all the stuff. What's going on? The cape could be doing it, not him.
But then he couldn't be floating with his coffee.
So, Peter,
And now we have stupid Peter running around the Dementor character doing this again.
please, safe to have
Running
you here.
around.
To watch my own
It's so
pleasure.
annoying.
sorry.
Look how he's running.
Please.
It's like his chest is going. I'm sorry, I'm just going off again. And his wig is awful. I'm just throwing jabs left and right.
Safe to have
Wearing
you
a wig?
together. I think
Yeah,
we're
it looks
beyond
like
They
an
did
awful
just
wig.
like put dye in his hair.
It looks like a wig. Oh, we skipped past the
I
joke.
think we're beyond you calling me sir.
Okay, Steven.
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
I guess it's funny.
I know that's some of the Marvel humor. I know it's some of the Marvel humor, but Stephen Strange did make kind of quips like that in his first movie, so I'm not completely against it. But this, I don't know why, but I first saw this, I saw the black suit, and I'm like, Venom suit? But I was like, no. Like, I just crossed on. I know it's not. I was like, what?
Believe it or not,
like a
it's
black
supposed to
suit.
be black, and those stripes are supposed to be golden.
So, is that his Night Monkey suit?
No, it's. I think it's going to be like that's my prediction, and I think it's pretty common among other fans. Is that actually? I think it. I've only seen myself say this, but I think that Doctor Strange is going to create him a suit. It's going to be somewhat magically based because.
A magical suit?
Well, maybe not magical. So that basically where this idea came from is that I had a dream where I was at the movie theater watching this film, and I was just so appalled by everything that I saw. And one of the worst things happening was just seeing Doctor Strange like enhance Peter's suit. That's what happened, and a part of the dream
Is
was
it a dream or seeing the future?
Oh, good question. I hope it's a nightmare, because
Nightmare.
in that dream,
Nightmare. Oh my gosh.
we're referencing the characters now. In that dream, Doctor Strange could, during the fight, Peter was somewhat not doing a good job, so Doctor Strange could kind of control the suit, and Peter was of course in the suit, so he was basically fighting for him in a lot of ways, and he could do all these tricks and stuff. Backflips and front flips. Yeah, I was just mad about that because we just had basically this main argument against Peter Parker in this MCU universe is that he is Iron Boy. All the weapons he's gotten, the costume, it's all from Tony Stark. And once he even lets go of that in Homecoming at the very end, it shouldn't even be a plot point for the character, but anyway, that had to be a story arc for whatever reason. Then in Infinity War, he just gets it again. He gets the suit that he just said no to. And Endgame, same thing. In Far From Home, he gets it from Shield. And he's not a self-made hero like he is in the comic books. And now I will call him this version of the character. I will be calling him Junior Strange.
So, well, if you noticed, Spider-Man in most of his time in the comics, he was a solo hero. Like he spent his time away from other heroes. I mean, he teamed up, but he never joined the Avengers. He wasn't like tied a lot to these big, huge multiverse galactic events until a long time into it was so many years that he turned down or didn't go to the Avengers that he could have joined, or he offered him or whatever. And it was a long time before he joined up with them. But he's so tied to these other characters.
With them. He had crossovers with them, and like I think it was the second or the third annual. He went over to the Avengers headquarters and he wanted, I forget what it was. I think he wanted to join the team.
He was going to look for the Hulk. They said they had to catch the Hulk.
That was the requirement for his audition. And
Yeah, they were kind of jerky to him back in those.
yeah,
But he's so tied to everything else at the MCU because they want it to be, oh, he's in the MCU instead of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the character who can sustain his own movie
Yep.
without being connected. I mean, sure, you could show a little thing, maybe show Avengers Tower in the background or something like that, just to show it's in the same universe. But Spider-Man can survive on his own. He doesn't need to have all these other characters to support him because he's Spider-Man. He's the biggest name in Marvel. He doesn't need anyone else.
yep.
And his villains are the best in Marvel too, generally, so they can sustain having their own villains too, so he has a lot to choose from.
And so now he is asking
I was
about
wondering if maybe you could make it so that he never did.
so that he erases his
Don't cast that
the
spell.
memory of everyone. And now we have Wong,
Never
who
did.
tells Stephen Strange
Wong
not to
being
cast
the
the
voice
spells.
of reason.
Yes.
Well, it's too dangerous. Fine. I won't.
This part is so confusing.
So we
to
see-
me.
So Doctor Strange is definitely kind of a cocky, he's sure of himself and everything, but he also we've seen him grow since his first appearance. He would not do something so stupid. I mean, yeah, he messes with things, he might bend the rules and try to do things a little bit, but he's grown a lot as a character. And look at him in Infinity War. I believe you mentioned a good point earlier in our chats about how he was ready to like let Spider-Man and Iron Man die if had to keep the Time Stone out of Thanos' hands.
We go to him. But you have to understand, if it comes to saving you, or the kid, or the Time Stone, I will not hesitate to let either of you die. I can't, because the universe depends on it.
He was willing to
So, like, and now-
sacrifice himself. He was willing to sacrifice the kid and Tony Stark. And guess what? He ended up sacrificing all those people, and Tony Stark actually died. He took everything seriously, despite him being still, as we saw in his exchanges between Tony Stark, the back and forth between the two. He was still like this cocky guy, but when it came to this universal threat, he was always serious and very he was able to tune away from all of that cockiness. You know,
But now he's now he's just doing something very seemingly out of character by risking what seems to be a pretty risky spell, changing time, wiping minds, all sorts of things that never seem to end well, and that he knows better than to mess with, but yet that's what he's doing very nonchalantly. And even Wong is saying, like, come on, man, don't do it.
And he's messing with the multiverse. He's messing with space and time. The very thing he was trying to, in a lot of ways, save, with the Infinity Stones. And now he's just playing around with it and it's all for just this one kid who came up and said, he doesn't really care all that much for him. Like, sure, maybe he's saddened by it, but why does he have to do something so risky? And the way it's even played out, the way that he doesn't even tell Peter how the spell works, or he doesn't even tell him, don't interrupt because this is going to end badly if you do not do. It's like basically flight attendants not telling you how to, put on your seatbelts, how to put on your mask in the case of an emergency before each flight. But this is like infinity times worse, because this is literally the entire time and multiverse is hanging in the balance of you just trying to help a kid. This is so bad. And
if you think about it, there's probably a lot of other ways he could have helped Peter. Like you mentioned earlier about S.H.I.E.L.D. and Skrulls, he could have done something to help him legally, or to make some kind of illusion to appear that Spider-Man and him were different, or something that was a little bit less risky and still be able to help him.
Can't some people still know?
That's not how the spell works.
No, I should have told him that before.
MJ's gonna forget about everything we've ever been through.
Stop.
This is the scene from the comic is about like this, where he's inside this circle, and then he pulls in Mary Jane at the last second. He's like, I can't not know. She can't not know, even though we're not together, or something like that. And so that's what happened, and that's the kind of that same thing without the Mary Jane stuff.
With the stability of space. space-time.
No.
I got the Doctor Strange folding in.
Is a concept about which we know.
I wonder what's happening here. Are they fighting or?
Now this part I'm very curious where this is going on here.
Yeah.
This train in the desert.
It's confusing.
Is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
Oh, we got electric bolts.
Multiverse is a concept.
So
about
Electro,
which
we know.
I saw Electro-ish thing. I don't know if that's Electro or not, but I do know later on I did see something that I believe is Electro.
Yep.
But this
and
could be Electro as well.
we got some sand in there as well. Maybe it's Sandman. And we also got the Daily
So do
Bugle.
you, here's just a question for you. Do you think this is going to be their Sinister Six that they've been trying to do for years?
I mean,
because they have what, about 4 or 5 confirmed, or that we've seen or confirmed so far. Like this could be the Sinister Six.
This is going to be the Sinister
some
Six
kind.
for sure. I think they're going to
But-
take the
But
cheap route out.
instead of Spider-Man taking them all on himself like he usually does, he's gonna end up probably having help from Doctor Strange and other Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah. I mean, they're taking a cheap
And-
route, basically, of... They couldn't be bothered to do it regularly like
trying to live 2 different lives.
normal people,
The longer you do it,
but they had to use the multiverse to bring in the Sinister Six.
the more dangerous it becomes.
And Happy Hogan. Whatever happens there. Oh, I
Okay,
know
here we go.
I know we
Go
gotta
back,
laugh,
go back.
but
Okay.
he says something. And you were right when you were talking to me.
What was that?
yeah,
Oh, that's
the light-
Sandman?
The longer you do it, the
Was
more
that Sandman?
dangerous it becomes.
Maybe.
Wait
What
for
is
it.
that?
Wait,
What is
wait,
that?
wait.
What is that?
What is this?
You
I can't tell. It's really dark. Is
know
there?
what? I'm gonna play it in slower mode. Or slower speed.
Zoom in.
Enhance image.
I cannot tell what that is.
And we're gonna see.
Hence
what
the
this-
image.
Let's see.
All right. All right, here we go.
Is
Wait.
that like a
Is that
tentacle?
lizard? Is that lizard?
It doesn't look like a lizard. It's like he.
It looks like there's a lab coat. Is there could be possibly a lab? Could that be a
But
lab
look,
coat
it's-
on him
look
though?
at-
Like
look
it
at
in
the
a
red
tail?
thing. Look at the red thing around him. It's what is that? It's like gooey.
Looks like he hit a barrier that's like blocking him, like he's in a cell or
Oh my
something.
gosh.
Maybe.
Is that a face? That might be a lizard.
It could be. I don't know. Because they might as well. They're bringing. Wait, this is what I'm talking about. Is that Sandman and
Yeah,
Electro?
I think it is. The sand is going up for
Is that
a
oh,
reason.
wait. So is that Spider-Man in his black suit right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Spider-Man. There's Electro, and there's I think it's gotta be. So we have if it's true, we have. So 1 Electro, 2 Sandman, 3 Lizard, 4 Goblin, 5 Ock. Who am I missing?
We'll
That's
get
5.
to someone, but I'm
Okay,
seeing this-
this is just now. This is just now. I'm just now as we're rewatching this. Have I seen that possible Lizard and Sandman? I saw the electricity, but I missed the whole possible Sandman sighting.
So I'm looking at the background, and there's this red light coming in the background, and I'm wondering if that might be somehow Wanda related. Cause
See, that
Yeah.
might be the Lizard.
or maybe it's just red light.
Like it looks like a claw. It looks like he might be slashing with his claw. And here we go. Now this looks like the Goblin, the Raimi Goblin's bombs, like the design.
and the laugh.
But as
Willem Dafoe.
so it's Willem Dafoe probably, because there's been like 4 goblins in live action. So like I wouldn't be surprised if they picked one of the Harrys or something weird. But it would make the most sense. I think they've been wanting to bring in Norman Osborn anyway. But like we mentioned, or I haven't mentioned yet in this video, but a lot of these villains are dead in
Well,
their
actually,
movies
let's get
if
there.
they're
Let's
the
get there
exact
because
same
we're
version.
almost there.
Okay.
And here we go.
Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
Turn around. There we
Here
go. Here it is.
we go. What's up, Doc?
There he is.
Hello, Peter.
And there he is.
Doc Ock.
Now you can say what you wanted to say.
Well, I was just saying that at least 3 of these characters are dead in their movies. If they're the exact, Doc Ock died in Spider-Man 2, Green Goblin died in Spider-Man 1, Electro died in Amazing Spider-Man 2, Lizard didn't die. He was just locked up, I think, and Sandman got away. Electro. Oh, you did him. Okay, so. So
Electro got killed.
Basically, 3 of these characters that we know of. Yeah, so I'm saying. So, 3 of these characters are dead in their movies. So, if these are the same versions that we see in those movies, and not just the same actor playing the same character, but a different version, then how did they come back to life? Did they snatch them before they died? Did they? One of our friends mentioned, or you, I don't remember which, in our chat, they were, a lot of them, like Sandman and Doc Ock, kind of turned over a leaf at the end of the movie and kind of weren't villains, and they kind of ended up being helping at the end. So what happened there? Like, did they snatch them before they had this moment of turning good? Or there's so many questions, you know, and are they just random characters from a multiverse that happen to be played by the same actor? I don't know.
I think there are 2 possibilities of where they're going to go with this. The first one is they're going to just blatantly disrespect for everything that came before, and just have this Alfred Molina Doc Ock be the guy from the end of Spider-Man 2. They're going to bring in Sandman, and they're going to just have him be evil because, same with Doc Ock, and then I guess they could resurrect the Goblin, and say that, you know, this is 50 years later or whatever, so all this stuff, all these rebirths and becoming bad guys again, you just didn't see that, so that's the number 1 possibility. So basically just disregarding all the character growth and the payoffs from the original films. And the second one is obviously if they treat these guys as not the original versions, but the multiversal versions where they're just coming from different worlds, which is probably the more likely scenario since this is supposed to be part of the multiverse saga. And so now that there's a huge problem with that within itself, because now you run into several problems. Like, number 1, how come all the villains look the same in all the different universes? Hold up, actually, that's not true, because even if you compare Raimi world to what's his name, Garfield world, Norman Osborn looks different.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, different. Yeah. So basically, certain characters look exactly the same. However, there are also characters that look totally different. So now you're already contradicting the rules you have created within the cinematic universe. And then again, it's not the first time you've done this. You've done it with What If. You've broken your own rules. You've done it with Loki. And, you know, and now...
Well, if you know, Marvel just recently, I saw an article not too long ago, just decided to sit down and have a meeting about the rules of the multiverse.
That was when Loki
after
ended,
this was
right?
filmed. After
that was when Loki ended. That they announced that they just had a meeting, right? Am I correct about that?
And it's like, this movie was already done. WandaVision was done. Loki was done. So anyway, all these movies were done, and they just now sat down. They haven't filmed Doctor Strange yet, but they probably knew what was going to happen.
They filmed Doctor Strange. They filmed Doctor Strange. They filmed Spider-Man, obviously.
And all those things, the movies, the shows that have come out already.
Mm-hmm.
So they just now are sitting down to come up. So it's no wonder that we see these kind of, you know, inconsistencies in things. But I do think they could go with it, like, say, the J. Jonah Jameson we mentioned earlier. It's not a multiverse character, but he looks the same as his Raimiverse counterpart. So maybe it's most universes, they're this character and they look like this. Could be what they do, I'm sure. But that makes me wonder if they bring in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, it wouldn't be the same unless it was the actual version we saw in the movies. It wouldn't hit the same. And if he's fighting this Doc Ock who is not the Doc Ock he fought, it wouldn't be as the same emotional value of, like, if it was the same two that knew each other, you know.
Exactly.
So it almost like it needs to be, if they're gonna do it, they needs to be the characters from the movies, the old movies. Like, it needs to be the same version.
Because if they go with the second one,
how they do that.
Because if they go with the second one, where the second scenario where they are these characters from alternative timelines, then what you're telling me, well, first of all, you're marketing this movie off of the previous films.
Raimi movies.
All those characters, Doc Ock and all these villains, that's what people see. That's what they respond to. They see that and they're like, oh, this is what I saw and I love that. Now I want more of that. But when you actually get down to it, these aren't the same characters. They are different characters just with the same face, because obviously they are just alternative timelines. So you're not going to get the payoffs between, or even like the interactions between Tobey Maguire Peter with this version of Doc Ock. You're not going to get this conversation that you would have gotten with the originals. So this is just turning into this lazy action figures dump, cartoon whatever, cartoon for stupid kids that don't, those cartoons that don't really respect your intelligence as a viewer, and that cater to kids and not just families as a whole, that everyone can watch and enjoy. No, they're just doing whatever, and obviously people will go insane for this, because they just see it for they don't really, for now at least, they're talking about
just
it.
Just the face value for what's seen.
Exactly. They don't really put much thought in, excuse me. They don't put that much thought into it right now. Maybe, hopefully they will once the movie comes out. I know there are a lot of people who are willing to just cover their eyes and ears to opinions they don't like to hear, but it's not just about opinions. This is like an actual fact that these aren't the same characters, and they're just suckering you in with these things that look like the thing you like, but they're not the thing that you like.
Yeah, I just don't, like, I feel like to bring in Tobey Maguire or even Andrew Garfield, you just have to make it the same for it to mean anything. If he's just a random Spider-Man who happens to be played by the same character, like they've done before, hello, I'm talking to you, Quicksilver, then it means it takes away every
it was
kind
Ralph
of meaning.
Boner.
It's
what are you
just
talking about?
I'm talking about Quicksilver from WandaVision.
Yeah, I know, I'm joking. I'm saying
where they brought
his
in
name was Ralph Boner.
So it's like they take away any kind of emotional value to it by it robs from the potential. Like if we get a Tobey Maguire, I want it to be the same Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from the Raimi films. He's older, he's more experienced, he's maybe at the end of his Spider-Man career, I don't know, and he's come in for one last fight kind of thing. That's what I would want to see out of this. And the same kind of thing from Andrew Garfield. He's a little more experienced, maybe not as old, but he's a little more experienced than this Spider-Man. Obviously, both of them are way more experienced than this Spider-Man. And like this whole movie is the excitement that I've seen and that I have is all from the stuff that stems from the previous movies, not what was actually tied from the MCU stuff. Tells me they probably would have been better off just making like a Spider-Man 4 with like just, I don't know, something with Tobey Maguire and that stuff, and it would have been just as cool.
And so everyone assumes that when Doc Ock says, hello, Peter, he's talking to Tobey Maguire, because obviously it would make no sense for him to recognize this Peter. But then again, he's from an alternative timeline, so who's to say that this Doc Ock...
So maybe...
doesn't...
maybe his Spider-Man looks like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Exactly. So, but I do think that he is talking to Tobey Maguire in this scene, because they're really hoping to kind of gloss over it in a way that, they're still trying to get the interaction between Tobey and Doc Ock, because that's what people want to see. They want to see those two guys on the screen again. But who knows? Maybe
Here's
I'm wrong.
what I hope so much. Please, 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 for the love of Spider-Man, Marvel, if you have all these cool cameos, do not show them in the trailer. Do not show Tobey Maguire. Do not show Andrew Garfield if he's in it, or anyone else. I've seen too much already. From the part of me that wants to enjoy this movie, don't do it. Because this is a teaser trailer, so we're probably going to get like one or two more that's going to reveal more stuff. And I know how they like to show everything. Now, granted, that was in Shang-Chi and Eternals and different characters, and they're trying to get him hyped. And I feel like you don't need to do that for for Spider-Man, because he's Spider-Man. He can bring in people without showing that other stuff.
I mean,
but
honestly,
I really hope it's like when they showed the Civil War trailer, and when they showed Spider-Man jumping in the airport fight. That would have been so much cooler to see Spider-Man first time appearing at the theater instead of seeing it in the trailer.
But they're scared
so
of leaks.
Please don't ruin it by showing it in the trailer.
I say just let it all burn and show all of it in the trailer so people just can get desensitized. Gosh, desensitized. I say that right?
Sensitized.
Yeah. Desensitized.
I'm so torn right now because I've just been so low on the MCU this year, and I've never been a fan of this Spider-Man in these movies. I mean, they're alright looking at them as not Spider-Man. They're kind of enjoyable movies, but I just don't like the Spider-Man character that they have.
I can't say desensitized. No, I said it wrong again.
Desensitized.
Desensitized?
Desensitized.
There we go.
And but I really want to enjoy this movie because of the old Spider-Man stuff. Like that was the part that got me excited. It was the Green Goblin, the Doc Ock. It looked cool. And to see Tobey Maguire come back as Spider-Man would be cool. Even Andrew Garfield. You know, that's what I want to see. And honestly, it's more interesting to me than anything with the MCU parts.
No,
so I'm really
say
torn
don't,
right now.
That's just playing cheap because you don't bring in Tobey Spider-Man and expect him to play the third wheel to Tom Holland. No way. Get that kid out of there. Put Tobey as the main character. Just make Spider-Man 4. Don't make any of this multiverse crap. I don't care about the team up because the team up is forced as heck. Just give us a normal story that is good. Don't give us this. And I just don't want to see Tobey Maguire get ruined. And that's what they're going to do. Just leave the trilogy alone. For me, it was an awesome trilogy. Why mess with that? Why touch it? Why can't people just leave things behind? Why do we have to bring back these franchises like Star Wars, Star Trek, Indiana Jones, He-Man? What else did they ruin? Lord of the Rings is coming up next. James Bond is probably going to get ruined next because of the next Bond, the 007. You can just name all these franchises that have been ruined. And why do people keep wanting these reboots like Ben 10 reboots, but it looks even worse than anything CalArts style Ben 10. People have to just learn that you should just let go of the things that you enjoyed. Harry Potter is the next one. They couldn't let it go. They had to make a prequel series that just went on and failed. Guys, I know it sounds great, this team up with Spider-Man, but in these times right now where these companies are just trying to leverage every penny that they can squeeze out of you. I mean, that's always been their motive. Now it is very much about brand recognition, and that is why you see so much of this happening, because they all want to be the MCU. They all want to go be bigger, create their own big franchise. As to where before you had more original ideas, it's every time they give it to you, it's bad or it's a disgrace to what came before. Why do you guys want to see more of that happen? Just because you get excited and you feel something? Is that why? Is that it? Just because you feel something, it makes you feel something? Is that the only thing? Like, you know what would make you feel and would make me feel happy? If it was a good movie, if it was a standalone story, I would have loved to seen that than this forced crossover that's going to just crap. I know it's going to crap all over Tobey, because Tobey shouldn't be a secondary character as is. And even Andrew Garfield, I think he deserves even better than being a second fiddle to Tom Holland, Iron Boy Jr. now, and Junior Strange.
If they wanted to do this right, they probably should have made it self-contained, not tied to the MCU, no Doctor Strange, no multiverse. But if they wanted to still bring in their own version of Doc Ock and whoever and do the Sinister Six,
and I'm still cool with like Marvel team ups.
A good Sinister, yeah. Like I know, but I'm just saying, like this particular one. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying this is in this particular movie. Like I would have been fine with Spider-Man not being like. I'm not saying he can never team up. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this be completely self-contained Spider-Man story. It's still set in the MCU. Not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's self-contained. It's not tied to Doctor Strange and everything. And you do a Sinister Six, and you can still bring in a Doc Ock, a Lizard, or whatever, these characters, and bring them in. It might be a little weird if trying to cram them all into one. That may not work since we haven't seen them yet, but you get the kind of where I'm going. That would have been interesting.
The thing
is... And so, yeah, I do feel...
Okay.
I do feel the nostalgia thing. Like I get pulled I get sucked into it a little bit because like I really like to see Tobey Maguire again as Spider-Man, but I also know that they ruin a lot of things when they try to bring them back. So that's why I feel so torn about some of these things. And just looking at the comic book movies as a whole, to keep it new and fresh, there's so many comic book characters, so many stories never touched, they skipped over, that they could keep making movies and stuff forever without having to retread anything and using different characters. You know, if they would spend the time and make the characters accurate, then they would do well. And even they're not all big name characters.
I was gonna follow that up with the fact that, you know, Marvel team ups, you always had Peter, who was always an equal to whoever he was teaming up with in the comic books. In these movies, he is always this, he's looking up to someone, he's running behind someone like a moron who's just trying to get on someone's good side. He's like this, he's not his own character. He's not teaming up with anyone. He's just playing second, I don't want to call him a second fiddle in his own movie, but sometimes that's what it just appears to be, because he's always looking up to someone or looking to someone else for
Well, you
help.
know, even in Far From Home, he did that with Mysterio.
Yep, and who else? And still, Tony Stark's shadow still loomed over Peter. Tony Stark was still a very prevalent and relevant character in that film, in Far From Home. I would have maybe allowed this if it was just one movie, but this is what we've gotten for his entire trilogy as of now. And it's not like we had one good movie, one standalone movie and the second standalone movie, and now we're getting the third one, and now we want to go crazy, we want to do a team up. No, this is the entire trilogy. That's all we've been getting so far. It's not Spider-Man, and I'm not even going to say these are good stories, because I can just make an analysis video of why Homecoming and Far From Home are bad movies. Yeah, that's my take on it.
I didn't really think they were that great. I liked Homecoming better. Far From Home I never really cared for that much. Especially the fact that they've had like two Spider-Man, nothing's been set in New York basically. I mean, kind of well, the first one was kind of in New York, but like the last one, like having the Spider-Man go off, like, and we haven't even got a proper him in New York, I feel like, and he already sending him off to Europe. And this, you know, he's in New York, but there's all the multiverse stuff, so I just don't know. Spider-Man, despite being such a big character, is a very grounded character. He's a street level character. Like, he has powers, yeah, he's very powerful, but he's a street level character like Daredevil, Luke Cage. Like, he's a street level character. He's not a galactic Avenger type character usually. That's not Spider-Man.
So I think we can now move on to our closing thoughts. I guess all I'll just say is that I've seen the leaked version of this video of this trailer. It didn't look good. Now I've seen the fully rendered one with all the special effects ready. I'm gonna say it made me even less excited, or I wasn't excited. It made me even less optimistic about any hope I had left for this character. It looks even worse than the leaked trailer, because in the leaked trailer, at least I couldn't see everything. I couldn't connect the dots. Now I can see not just the awful reveals of the characters we love being kind of shoehorned into this film. We're also seeing these plot holes and everything just in this trailer. Now that I see it in full context, it's so much worse. So those are my thoughts on this trailer.
Like I said, I'm torn because I feel a little bit more optimistic than you do. There are parts I feel like I might like. I just, I can't trust anything anymore. Like, coming into this year, I was a lot more optimistic about things, even as far as into WandaVision, before things started to turn and things just started going down for me, and I was like, ugh, I just don't know what to expect from Marvel, and it's hard to hope for anything good after them putting out several lackluster things in a row.
Why would you be optimistic about something that you know that you've seen get trampled over for like the past year, and now we're getting, and with Spider-Man it's been done since 2017. Why would I be optimistic?
My nerdness really wants to be happy and optimistic.
But you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy. So what
It's not
did you
gonna be.
expect?
It's not. I'm just trying. That's what I want. I want to feel hopeful and optimistic, I suppose.
But every
And
time you
just,
do that, you
know,
set yourself up for disappointment. So might as well just cut to the chase.
sometimes.
What's the recent time that just totally what's something that you thought was going to suck and just change your opinion on it as a whole?
Let me think.
Like for
I don't
me,
know
it was,
if
I
it's
guess,
the best. I don't know if it's the best example, but Suicide Squad, I didn't have expectations for because it's a movie coming out this year, but it was enjoyable. I wouldn't say that I thought it was going to be horrible or anything, so I wouldn't go that far. I would say maybe Venom was a movie that I didn't think was going to be any good, and I actually enjoyed Venom pretty good. Except for the fact that he's not tied to Spider-Man, I enjoyed the movie. So I would say that's probably a good example of Venom.
yeah, but those are I guess you could say Suicide Squad maybe, but that didn't really play to the strength of the comic books. So that sort of stuff that you see in the source material, it's not being translated very well. I would say Suicide Squad does it better than a lot of the examples like the ones we were talking about, but it also had a lot of problems of its own that ultimately held it down for me. But I understand why you want to be excited. I seeing these characters, I kind of get this like glimmer of, oh wow, this is so cool. But then I think about it and I just realize I'm just lying to myself.
Out there, kind of wonder why it seems like us and a lot of other people it seems like we're crapping on everything, and it's not really what we want. We want to have really cool superhero movies because we really love the characters and we read the comics, and so it's very important to us. But we also see how the people who make these movies don't care like we do. They're not fans like we are. They've shown their true colors time and time again, and so that's why we're seem so jaded, I think, and a lot of people seem that way, and they just gripe at us, say we're just haters, and we don't want to hate it. We want to see good stuff. It's just they're not giving it to us.
And it's not that I am a fan and someone else might not be a fan, so now they can't be a new fan. No, it's just that I just don't want to be a blind consumer who is nodding their head all the time to whatever they get on their plate, even when it's like crap on it. And now Peter, I guess, can now he can, I guess, suit up from his civilian clothes. This armor up comes from nowhere, I guess, huh? So yeah,
December 17th.
I think we've said it all. I think we've said it all. So
it'll be an interesting year for Marvel, and we'll see how Spider-Man closes it off.
So with all that said, thank you for joining us on this episode of our trailer analyses. Glad to have someone be watching. So if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to subscribe. We got more videos coming down the line, and make sure to stay desensitized. I said that wrong again, didn't I?
Desensitized.
Desensitized. Stay desensitized.
This is our word of the day, kids.
Yes.
Desensitized.
And always remember to pardon the nerds.